Hey, good morning, friends. This is Ed back with you with the First Time Gardener. So today I'm going to give a basic walkthrough through the garden. It's been about 4 weeks since we kind of planted everything, so I want to give you an update on everything, on how everything's coming along. And I also videotaped a planting of my spinach, kale, collards, radishes, and some romaine lettuce. And for whatever reason, I lost all that footage. So I'm going to go ahead and bring you down to the garden. I'm going to show you where I planted it and kind of explain what I did a little bit. But unfortunately, I lost a video of the actual planting. I don't know what happened, but anyway, it's gone. And then I'm excited about showing you all the stuff that we planted for our fall garden in the grow trays. I want to take you over to the garden and show you that too. So anyway, come along, let's go check the garden out. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to show you what we planted as far as our spinach and that goes. So guys, as you can see here below me is where I planted all the spinach and that stuff. And basically you've seen on my other videos how I amend the soil. I put compost in there, black cow, peat moss, 10-10-10, and a little bit of topsoil. So that's how I amended the area, and I'm sure you can go find that in any other of my videos where I'm preparing the soil. So that's what I did to prepare the soil. And then, so right here in this row all the way down, I have spinach planted. And then here I have collards, and then these are the collards that I put into the seed trays that you see up. They're going there. And then at the very end, I planted some seed so that I have more coming up after these kind of fade out. And I did the same thing here. Got to mark collards. Those are all seeds, and you can see they're just popping up right there. Now those have been planted 4 days ago, and they're already starting to pop up. And then over here I did a radish, and I planted those right here. Now, as you probably heard in some of the other videos, I'm not a big fan of radishes, but when I ordered my Haas seeds, they gave me a free trial pack of radishes. It's supposed to be a purple radish that's supposed to be very tasty. So because they were free, hey, and they sent them to me, I'm going to take the effort and just try to grow them and see what they are. If I don't like them, I'll give them away to some friends or whatever. But anyway, I wanted to see what they turn out like. So anyway, and you can see they are starting to come up right now, and that's 4 days old. Okay, and then in here, got my little tag. I got my little tag kind of buried. Anyway, that's kale. Now this is curly kale. We make a lot of kale soup, and last year I grew kind of like a spinach leafy looking kale, and it tasted good. It was fine, but the curly kale gives a little bit more texture to the soup. So when you cook it down and put it in the soup, it doesn't turn to like a soft, like, you know, when you saute spinach in the pan, it gets really soft and kind of just folds down to mush. So this kale kind of in a high heat, when you're boiling and cooking the soup for a couple hours, it holds together really well. So that's what I planted there. And then in the last little bit here, I planted some romaine lettuce. Now I've planted lettuce probably 4 times now, and I have never had any luck with it. So we're gonna see if this romaine does. And I didn't plant much. It's only like a 2-foot section, so maybe I'll get 4 or 5, maybe 6 plants out of the section I planted. But anyway, that is the look of the garden. And this is only 4 days old, so it really hasn't taken off yet. But anyway, that's what I planted the other day. I'm sorry I don't have the video of it planting, but I think you guys get the idea. Most of those seeds, I used my conduit pipe. I put a trench with the conduit pipe. I stepped on it, walked on it. I pulled strings too to make it nice and straight. That's what the tent stakes are. So I got tent stakes and I put one at each end, and I just pull a string straight. That way everything is straight. I like things to be straight just because I do. But the other thing that it really helps too is if you plant underneath that string in a straight line, when things start popping up and you see it's a straight line, you'll know they're not weeds, that they're you know, the plants you planted. So it gives you a good base of to be able to weed beside it, to get ahead, stay ahead of the weeds. Because here in Florida, the weeds grow like crazy. If nothing else will grow, a weed will grow. So I try to keep up on that. And I come out every morning and just pick the bigger weeds. And then I have the little 4-prong rake that I rake in between to stir up the dirt to kind of keep the weeds down. So if you keep up with the weeds, you really don't have a weed problem. It's when you just don't get to it. But anyway, here, let me show you real quick. This is the buckwheat. This is our second batch where we grew it to seed. We cut it down, turned it in. There's a video out of that too. And this is what's come back. There's flowering really nice. Now we're not going to let this one go to seed because I want to plant in here. I have potatoes chitting right now. That's with a CH, not an SH. And they're on the dining room table in sunlight in a controlled temperature of 73 to 75 degrees. So, and a chitting, what chitting is, when you have a potato, you have little eyes on the potatoes, and that starts to grow like a little seed over there, and that's the potato reproducing itself. It says, like, I got to reproduce, so it grows up. Now, I'm sure in many times that you've gone into your pantry where you've kept a bag of potatoes, you open the bag of potatoes and they got these like little eyes all over them and stuff. So that's what chitting is. So you do it in the daylight versus in the pantry, because in the pantry they're growing in the dark and they shoot out these long white looking legs of eyes, and the reason they're white and they're growing tall is they're looking for light. They want sunlight. So you can start them in the pantry, but as soon as you see that little eye starting to pop out, I'd move them out to the sunlight and let them chit, because you want to chit about that big and you want it hard and green or purpley green. That's what you want in the ground, because if you plant the ones that have the really long white looking, long lanky things, when you plant them, you take the chance of breaking those when you're putting them in the ground and you're packing dirt over them. And then they're not going to grow, they're just going to rot in the ground. So that's why you want the small. And I have a video that I showed you how to prepare those too. It shows you the process of what I go through. So in here, I have golden potatoes that are going this section. And then the other section over here that is in buckwheat as well, right now, is going to be red skin potatoes. Now I turned this over. This is going to be red skin potatoes too, but there wasn't much buckwheat in here and the weeds were starting to really go. You can see the weeds dying out on the top. So I just turned that over with my 4-prong rake. I'm going to let this go another day. I'm going to weed it and turn it over again. I'll pull these weeds, turn it over again, and then any weeds that come over there I'll pick out, and then I'm going to flatten it out, because the potatoes, the next planting of potatoes, the redskins, they're just about ready to put in the ground. So, and then I'm planting in succession, so I already have some in the ground and in buckets, which you saw the video, I'm sure. I hope you did anyway. If not, go back and check that out. I planted them in 5-gallon buckets and in the ground. So this is going to be the second area that I'm planting with the red potatoes. And then where the buckwheat is here, that's going to be my third round of potatoes. So I should have potatoes. So they take about 90 days till 75 to 90 days before you can harvest them. So I planted these the 1st of September. So they're going to be almost ready, let's see, 3, 6, 9, about the middle to end of December. But I should have potatoes at the end of December through January, February, March, maybe even into April, the way I'm planning them in succession. And if you want them all year like that, or at least several months, that's the way to do it. All right, let's take a quick look here. Here's our green beans. These are what I planted probably 4 or 5 weeks ago. They're coming up. They're doing well. They're blossoming. You can see all the blossoms on there. I am getting some green beans. I've had caterpillars problems right now. Caterpillars are eating all my stuff, so I'm trying to keep over there. But you can see right here I have some green beans that are starting to come on, and I've got a bunch of them this size all over right now, if I can keep the bugs from eating them. Here's some more down here, you can see. But anyway, they're doing well. Probably in another week we'll be picking green beans to eat. And then these are the flowers I planted. Remember I told you zinnias? I broke a couple zinnias up. That was a grasshopper eating my damn leaves. But anyway, I planted a row of zinnias from a dead flower that was off of here, and you can see this is about 4 weeks old. They've grown really nice and they're starting to flower. They got beautiful flowers. The bees and the butterflies like them. Okay, so let's do an update on the potatoes. This is what I have in the ground. These are red skin potatoes from the grocery store that I chitted before I put them in here. And they are slow growing. Finally getting, you can see as they come up, here's some just breaking the surface of the ground. That's what they look like when they first break through. And then they come to this, and then of course they grow bigger. Now I'm going to put some blood meal around these things, because we want the greens to really start thriving and getting big to produce that. And then once we see the flowering, they'll come with some flowers on. Once we see that, we're gonna stop the nitrogen, and we're gonna put phosphorus fertilizer on there and bone meal, so we get the root development that we want. So here's another. We got this one coming up. This one's starting to come up. I've got 2 in here that have not shown yet. And let's walk over here. So I have one that's just starting to come up right here. You can see. And then I have 1, 2 in there that have not shown any sign yet of coming up. And then I have this one that just popped through. So, and don't be discouraged if you've planted potatoes. Sometimes they seem like they take forever to come up. So it all depends on the eyes when you plant them, how big the chit is. So if it's still developing the chit in order to grow, it might take a week or 2 to get to there where it starts going through the ground. So you know, don't get discouraged, just leave them in. I'd say after 8 weeks, if you don't see the ones coming up where you planted them, then they're probably rotted. But anyway, and then we planted, if you've watched the video of the planting, I planted in some 5-gallon buckets. So here's our buckets. Now these came out, they started growing when they were only in the ground 2 weeks. This bucket here, this one right here, this plant came out in 2 weeks. So we have a third one, or second one there, and then I have a third one growing here. Now as soon as these 2 here get as tall as this one is, I will backfill this with some more soil, because once the potatoes start coming up and growing in here, you don't want them exposed here with the sunlight getting at them. So I'll just keep filling this bucket up as these grow until it gets about 2 inches from the top, and then I'll stop adding soil. And here is our red bucket. Now we planted these the same day, 3, and I only have 1 coming up so far in here. Still waiting for the others and have hopes that maybe the other 2 will come up, but so far it's just the 1. But when we get to harvest, when it's time to harvest, we're going to take those out, dump them over. I'm going to show you guys, you know, what kind of potatoes you can get from a 5-gallon bucket. And like we said, when we planted them, you know, that's for if you don't have a lot of space, or you have a little small backyard, maybe you have a balcony on your apartment or your condo or whatever, and you'd like to grow some potatoes, but you don't want to take up space. A 5-gallon bucket, you know, it does great. Now, they take 90 days, so they're a while to take. So you might get a dozen to 2 dozen potatoes out of these 3 plants in the white bucket. It all depends. You know, you just have to dump them out and see what you get. Every time there's something, you know, you get a few, you either get a few more or a few less than you did the time before. So I don't know how to really control that. But anyway, let's move on to our brassicas. So here is our broccoli. Now it's doing really well. These are 4 weeks old from seed. When we started them from seed, they grew 3 weeks in the seed trays, and these have only been in the ground 1 week since I transplanted them, and they're doing really well. Now I haven't hit this with any sort of fertilizer yet, but I bought some fish emulsion that I'm going to be feeding all these plants with some fish emulsion, give them a shot so they get some boost there. Now these sticks that I have here, these are bamboo sticks. I ordered them on Amazon, and you can see I have a triangular shape in here, and I put them in about when this plant is this size. Now why I do that is I want this plant to kind of grow up and the leaves to go out, and I want this to support the main stem down here, because in Florida in the winter we get a lot of windy, stormy days, and you know, we've put so much time into these plants that if they grow tall and they start getting the head of the broccoli, and the wind comes, they can swaddle back and forth pretty good, and I don't want to take the chance that that stem's going to snap before the broccoli is matured enough to pick. So that's one of the reasons that I have the sticks up here. Now I have a freebie coming up. It's a little tomato plant. It must have had a seed or 2 from my compost, that when I put it in here, just 1 seed germinated. So I'm going to let it grow until, see what happens. I might transplant it into a bucket or something later, but it was a freebie, so we're just letting it grow for right now. And then here is my cabbage. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 heads of cabbage, and they're doing really well. They're looking really good, and they're going to get some fish emulsion as well, and some bone meal to get started, to get that leafy growth. You want that leafy growth to go. That way, the more leaves you get, the more photosynthesis you're getting, which will enable the roots to grow bigger and form your cabbage heads. So that's looking really good. Then these over here are they're not growing as fast. This is the first time I've grown cauliflower, so this row right here is cauliflower. They're doing a lot slower growth than the cabbages, and they were both planted the same day. So, and then over here I have a mixture of broccoli and cabbage. I put a couple more cabbage in because I had them in the tray, and then those other couple down there are extra broccoli I had left over. So I just went ahead and planted those in the ground. We'll see. Now you can see the spacing too. You know, these bushes, cabbage and that, you know, they're going to fill up. They're going to fill up this half, and then this is going to fill up this half. So they're going to kind of, as much room as it looks like I have, they're going to encroach on each other. And that's important. When they do that, you want to make sure that you one, try to keep the leaves off of the ground. So the lower stems you want to break off, because it's going to cause pouty mildew. And then the ones that go where they cross each other, you want to try to take those off so that you get good airflow. And you want to water in the morning is the best time to water, so it has all day to evaporate off the leaves. Because if the leaves stay wet and damp, and you water your ground and all the soil bounces up onto your leaves, that can one, get some fungus on your leaves, and two, it can get powder mildew on your leaves. And then once it starts, it just moves from one plant to the other. So and I'll show that as in the process as they start growing. But they're doing well. Now here is really good is my carrots. Now these I planted. You saw me planting. I have a video out of transplanting these. They were started in the grow trays, and they were in there between 2 and 3 weeks before they got big enough. And I didn't want them to go over 3 weeks, because as I explained when I planted them, they have a tap root that goes straight down. That's what forms your carrot. Well, if you go any more than 3 weeks and they're in the smaller, now you could probably, if you grow them in a taller, like a 4 or 5 or 6 inch pot, and you start them in there, you can leave them in a little longer, because that taproot will just start growing. But these were starting to turn, because I only have like an inch, maybe 1.25 inch grow trays. And so I only let them go 3 weeks, and I transplanted them. And I actually, I think I lost one here, and I think I lost one over there. So I actually only lost 2 or 3. Oh, I think I lost one there too. So out of all the ones I transplanted, I only lost like 3. Now there's a lot of videos I watched out there that they say you can't transplant carrots, or it's not good. You got to sow them in the ground. So I don't know. Here's proof to me that you don't have to. But the real proof is going to come when we pull them out of the ground and see what the carrots look like. If the carrots are small and kind of funky looking, then maybe we didn't do the right thing by transplanting them. But we'll see when we bring them out. Now they're the Bolero brand of carrot. They're supposed to be user-friendly carrots for like first-time growers, and they grow about 8 inches long, 6 to 8 inches long, and they're a consistent carrot of size. They don't go from big to a point. So that's the reason, like I said, when I planted them, that's the reason, one of the reasons I picked them. Onions, oh, that's another story. So I planted the onions in the seed trays. The red onions I planted, I got one seed that germinated, and it ended up dying in the seed tray, never made it. I got probably, I don't know, 15 or 20 of the sweet onions to come up in the seed trays, and they were looking pretty good, and I transplanted them, and I have a video out of there, but they didn't do well at all. So I have this one that's looking pretty good, but all the other ones, like, they're not looking really good. I have that one there, that might make it. That one there might make it. And then I put 2 rows in that I sowed the seeds that I had left over in here. So the red ones, again, I didn't get any. I didn't get any, not a one. So I don't know what's wrong with that here. And I bought all these seeds that I'm growing here that you see me in the garden already. I bought them from Haas. And they're a reputable company, but I don't know, just something with those red onions. And I'm not blaming them. It could be me totally that screwed up. But I planted a row of sweet onions too. And out of the whole row, I have these that came up and this one. That's it. Oh, and I have one more right here. So I had three, and I probably had 30 30 little spots of there, and I only had 3 come up. So I don't know. So I've watched some videos, several videos of people starting onions. So what I did is I ordered another pack of onions. I ordered a Vidalia onion seed from another company. I just got them in, and I'm growing them in a larger container. It's a 6-inch container. I have 2 containers, and I put, they said there's 200 seeds in the container, I mean in the package I got. So I split them in half in these 2 6-inch pots, and I'm going to let them grow for a couple months until they get a thick stem. I think that's one of my issues, is I didn't let them grow long enough before I transplanted them. So I'm thinking that's my mistake on that part. So we're going to see in 2 months how they're looking, and then I'm going to transplant those into the garden and overwinter them, and hopefully by March, February, March, maybe into April, we'll be getting some onions. So anyway, I don't want to make this any longer than it is. I just wanted to give you a review of the garden. If you would, please give me a thumbs up on this video if you like it. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please subscribe. I'm new to this, so I'm learning as I go, and whatever I try in my garden, I try to pass it on to you, what's good and what worked and what didn't work, what's good and bad. So, and as I educate myself, I'm trying to educate you as well. And for you guys that have been gardening forever, if you're watching my channel, you're like, oh, dude, why'd you do that? Hey, let me know in the comments why, and what you do maybe to help myself grow better. I don't have a big, large area garden, so I don't have, you know, I can't grow a lot, but I do have enough to at least supplement some things from having to buy at the store. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. You're watching The First Time Gardener again. I'm coming to you from Florida, so this is a Florida-based growing area that I'm in. So if you're in Florida and you're growing some of these same things, let me know where you're from and what you're growing. All right, guys, that's enough time. Thank you for watching. Stay safe. God bless. Happy gardening, and we'll see you on the next one.